Calderon.
And I'm Katie Ryan, and we're coming to you from the Washington, D.C. area. We're each going to share a short testimony about our devotion to Our Lady Queen of Peace and how we came to know and love Medjugorje.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. Mom introduced me to Medjugorje at a very young age. We would receive this pamphlet. I don't remember if it was blue or green, but it was. We would receive it once a month in the mail, and Mom would sit us down along with my brothers in the living room to listen to the messages and whatever was happening in Medjugorje. And as I look back, I was drawn to really two things from those pamphlets. First was her kind words. They always were very warm, sweet, almost melodic. Her words would soothe my soul. And the second thing is I connected with the fact that they were children. I was young at the time, and I would think to myself, wow, what would it be like to be able to see the Mother of God? So the years went by, and I didn't practice my faith. I think her words were in the back of my mind throughout those years. I didn't really have a relationship with our Lord, but what I ended up getting into was looking into things that were miracles, supernatural occurrences, things like near-death experiences, incorrupt bodies, hosts turning to blood. And at some point I thought to myself, okay, it's really time to look at my faith and see what is it that I believe, what is it that Our Lady is asking of me. And I felt a calling from Our Lady. So what I did was I started looking for opportunities to either volunteer, participate, somehow do something for Our Lady. And I remember I came across this newspaper clipping, and it had a phone number, and it said, I believe, National Marian Anniversary Celebration. So I was excited, and I said, okay, let me get ahead and make a phone call. So I did, and I ended up reaching Mary Margaret, who was one of the committee members at the time for the celebration. And I asked her, I know DC is a very transient city. I could only imagine where you're from and where the rest of the team is from. And she said, well, I'm from Maryland. I thought, wow, that's great. I'm from Maryland. Maybe there's an opportunity for me to volunteer on a consistent basis. So I proceeded and I asked her, what town are you in? And she said, Odenton. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm in Odenton. What street? Strawberry Lane. What? I couldn't believe it. She was literally like 3 or 4 blocks from me. And so I nearly fell off my chair at that point. So anyways, since then I've been volunteering and helping out the National Marian Center to plan, the celebration every year. And I've been doing it for about a decade, maybe going on 11 years now. But one of the things that the founders of the Marian Center impressed on me was to talk less and more action. And really the importance of living out Our Lady's messages with passion. And so, I came to the realization rather quickly that Our Lady needs boots on the ground. She needs us to take command and control of our lives and not only ask for the protection under her mantle, but she needs the faithful to mobilize and mobilize now. Let me give you a little bit of a background on the celebration. The National Medjugorje Anniversary Celebration has been around for 36 consecutive years, and we celebrated on June 25th. It was founded by Frank Quinn and Jackie Wilson, who joined a year later. They introduced the event in response to Our Lady's April 22nd, 1982 apparition message to Mariana, in which Our Lady said, "I wish a feast for the Queen of Peace on June 25th, the anniversary of the first apparition." So the program that we host every year is modeled after St. James Parish. But most importantly, this event is a day of prayer. And so what we focus in on is confession, the International Rosary, Mass, benediction, and adoration. We've always been very adamant to adhere to strict obedience to our Mother Church and to strictly follow her teaching. So, brothers and sisters, my prayer for all of you is that in our darkest days, in our darkest hours, when those demons come, may we lean on each other and fight them using Our Lady's 5 stones. On a personal note, I want to mention that I've never been to Medjugorje, and there is a chance that I will never be in Medjugorje in my lifetime. I have a severe phobia of flying, and it's something that the Lord has not lifted from my heart, at least to date. I'm always open to that changing. Obviously, I would be ecstatic to be able to go. But the power of Our Lady's messages has made the anniversary celebration my own piece of Medjugorje. And now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kate.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be with you all today as we begin this Advent season. So I wanted to explain a little bit about my connection to Medjugorje. So my mother and father went there for the first time back in 1988. And so they were already strong practicing Catholics at the time and had a deep love for Our Lady. But certainly the pilgrimage experience very much brought them closer to Mary and her son Jesus. Upon my mom and dad's return, they were just so on fire to share and spread Our Lady's messages with not only family and friends, but other parishioners from their church here in Maryland, and even strangers. They were not shy, and I think that's something that Medjugorje does to you. It sort of sets you on fire if you've been there. And so several years later, my mom ended up getting involved in the planning for the National Marian Center's National Medjugorje Anniversary Celebration. And it wasn't too long that she was helping with that event that Ernesto talked about just a little bit ago. Here in Washington, D.C. area. And so through her connection to that program, she ended up meeting Father Roach, and Father Roach had explained that he was going to be taking a pilgrimage of folks over there to stay with Yvonne, and this was September 2015. And so, we as a family, my mom, my dad, and brother and I sort of felt like, wow, this might be the opportunity for us to all go back as a family together. And so we did feel called to go, and I was really looking forward to it. I was in my early 30s at the time, and I was a practicing Catholic. I would say that I didn't know a whole lot about Medjugorje, though I wasn't reading any of the books or really getting into it the way that my mom and dad were. But I was still excited to go, and I remember asking my mom, like, what are we going to do, though, for 9 days besides praying and going to go to church? And she said, you'll see. So I just remember stepping foot in Medjugorje and just immediately feeling this sense of peace and joy that I've never felt before, and something that I've never experienced anywhere else, really. And so on our first full day there, I recall walking from Yvonne's guest house through the vineyards over to St. James Church, and it was like we just immediately started praying the rosary on the walk, and we just passed pilgrims praying the rosary and from all over the world. And I I just felt very sort of inspired by that witness. And Medjugorje is such a beautiful place, and there is so much peace and joy there through, again, the sacraments and confession, adoration, mass, of course. But I think I felt like the witness of the others that surrounded me really kind of impressed on me that, wow, I need to kick it up a few notches myself. So, I felt very much touched by Our Lady when we were there. In particular, the Holy Hour occurred behind St. James Church because it was September and the weather was nice, and so the whole sort of amphitheater behind was filled. I mean, it was filled with 11,000 pilgrims, and we were adoring our Lord in the Eucharist and heard just the beautiful music, and I just was brought to tears. I had never been in an adoration experience like that in my life, and here you are in thousands of others, and yet you also at the same time feel like you're alone with our Lord at the same time. So that was certainly a highlight. And of course, there were many other highlights. It's hard to name just one. Everything from the confession experience to hiking up Cross Mountain and Apparition Hill. And then, of course, we were very blessed to be able to join in Yvonne's apparitions, on a daily basis as well. So I just was soaking it all in and really enjoying every minute of being over there and feeling that sense that I was in a way tasting heaven. Really felt that way. So now upon coming back, I thought, okay, now that I've been there, similar to my mom and dad, I also felt very much on fire to spread news about Medjugorje and Our Lady to others. And so I came back and gave all my Catholic colleagues at work blessed rosaries. I even brought back the CD of the beautiful Holy Hour music and shared that with some others that I knew, and really just, I was not shy at all to really share that, because it is such a beautiful experience that you want others to have and to realize, how great Our Lady's love for us is, and of course also her son Jesus. I mean, there is that other quote that she says, if you knew how much I loved you, you'd weep for joy. And so I think that is so true. So upon returning, there were a couple quick stories I wanted to share from that 2015 pilgrimage, where I brought some holy water back to a friend of mine who was a non-Catholic, non-baptized, in his late 30s, and he was actually dying of cancer. And I ended up bringing him some holy water, and he started using it. And it was only a matter of about 3 to 4 months that he actually made the decision to get baptized. And so he was baptized, and then it was only about maybe 6 months later that he ended up passing away. And I just feel like, Our Lady did play a role in that sort of conversion experience for him. It's never too late. You never know kind of what Our Lady is going to do through you. And so and another similar experience was, my dad's cousin. She was born and raised a Catholic, but left the faith at a very young age, and about the high school age, had left the faith. And I got closer to her as she also had cancer and was dying of cancer. And I got closer to her, and I brought her too some Medjugorje holy water that she was beginning to use. And she was in the hospital and really, really close to death. And I ended up thinking, gosh, I'm actually going to be leaving on a trip very soon. I was leaving to go back to Medjugorje in March 2019 on a second pilgrimage. And I thought, I better call and get a priest over there to that hospital, because I don't know if she's going to be here when we return. And so I ended up calling about 3 or so priest friends of mine, just out of the blue that morning, and none of them were able to make it that morning, but they gave me the phone number of the chaplain at that hospital. And so I ended up calling him, and he was able to come, and he actually did bring her back to the church and gave her the last rites, and it was just a really beautiful experience. And he left her with a rosary, and he said that he was a Dominican priest. And it kind of all came together that there was a reason why those other priests couldn't come to help her in that moment. You know, he was a Dominican, and this woman's father, who's my great uncle, he was a lay Dominican, and he was very, very faithful and had actually been on the 1988 pilgrimage to Medjugorje with my mom and dad. And so once again, I think there's without a doubt, a sense that obviously Our Lady was involved in that, intercessing for that conversion. And so that was another sort of beautiful fruit, I would say, of that trip. And then, so on the second pilgrimage in March 2019, it's a much smaller, more intimate pilgrimage. We ended up going to stay with Ivanka on that trip. And once again, when I got there, I could immediately feel that sort of surreal peace and joy that you don't have anywhere else in the world. And so I also felt like this second trip, I could appreciate it in a new way, because over the last 4 years or so, I had really grown in my faith and had become more spiritually mature. And so once again, the beautiful confession and adoration and I just sort of soaked it all in, and once again didn't want to leave. But I think it's really important to realize how you can take these experiences and then come back and just again spread the joy that you experience in your own heart, spread that to others. And it doesn't always mean using words. I mean, I think that there's so much power in just your actions and your witness, living your day-to-day life. But there's just one sort of fruit that I wanted to touch on from the 2019 experience. So again, I went in March 2019, came back, and I was praying in church on All Souls Day, so November 2019. And at the end of Mass, this was again in Washington, D.C., in my own home parish, and the end of Mass, the priest said, everybody should stay behind and pray, and then we have the book over on the side to, write names of your loved ones for the month of November, your departed loved ones. And so I waited till the line dispersed and the church was empty. I finally went over to the book to start writing the names of my loved ones. And all of a sudden I look off to my left and there's this young man standing there, and I thought, oh, okay, he must want to write in the book too. So I said to him, oh, sir, you're welcome to write right now. I'm done. And he looked at me and he says, no, I don't need to write anything in the book. He said, I wanted to ask, have you ever been to Medjugorje? And I looked at him like so out of the blue, going, what? And I said, yes, I actually have been there a couple times, been there twice. Have you been there? And he said, no, I've never been there before. And he's like, I would love to go. He said, but he's like, I'm very close with Our Lady. And he kind of like touched his heart. And he said, and he pointed to Our Lady statue, which was just right off to our right there in the church. He said, Our Lady wanted me to tell you that the fruits of your trip will be coming about soon. And I just was, again, blown away. I'd never had any experience like that in my life. I'd never met this gentleman before, never seen him, and that's my parish. And so and then he walked away and haven't seen him since. And so I just remember sort of contemplating and sort of pondering that, like, gosh, what are these fruits going to be, And it wasn't that much longer before, it was about, just a couple weeks later, that I was invited by the National Marian Center to actually join their planning committee and help them with the planning for the June 25th, 2020 program. And so I began engaging in that and helping, especially on sort of the social media aspect and some of the other technical aspects. I'm not super technical, but have enough tech savvy to help in those ways. And so it was sort of, again, Ernesto and I together, was sort of a key time to bring this sort of experience to the planning committee, because in the past, the events, the program's always been live in person in a church, and with COVID being, impacting churches and everything worldwide, we ended up having to bring our program into an online format. So it kind of added an extra level of complication, but we really came together as a team to put together this really beautiful program. And even when I think back on the 2019 pilgrimage, we were able to get even some of our priests and other friends from that pilgrimage involved in our program, and used even photos from the 2019 trip in our 2020 program. So it just, in hindsight, I really do think that was certainly one of the fruits, was to sort of get involved in the planning and kind of keep spreading Our Lady's messages. And one of the things that was so great about going online is that we were not only able to reach, we were able to reach such a much wider audience with the fact that we brought it to an online format. So, I just would wrap up and say that we are going to be planning for the 2022 celebration, which again will be on June 25th and 2022, and we'll go ahead and post it to our website, which is www.marian-center.org. So that's where we'll go ahead and put that out for again future years, and are excited to get working on that. So I invite you all to just continue to spread Our Lady's messages in your own ways. She calls each of us, and we each bring unique talents and gifts. And I don't underestimate yourself. I mean, it's really a beautiful thing. So I just want to once again also thank Yvonne for allowing us to join in your beautiful prayer group week after week, and it's really been a blessing to all of us. Again, another sort of benefit of being in this virtual environment. So thank you again for that.
And we want to take a moment to ask everyone to pray more during this time of Advent in preparation for the coming of our Lord. Let Jesus be born in your heart. Thanks to everyone for listening to us today. God bless you, and God bless your families. Thank you.
Thank you.
He will follow to the ends of